Welcome to the CEO Institute roadshow delivered in partnership with leading teams. Today we're talking about the CEO playbook on how to develop, retain, and attract talent. Let's get into it.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Matthew Vandermeer. I'm a partner and facilitator with leading teams based here in Brisbane. And I'm joined by Martine Harkin. I'm going to introduce Martine in a second a bit more. And also we've got next to Martine is Scott Hoskins. So Martine and I are based in Brisbane. Scott's up on the Sunshine Coast. What we know from these sessions, and I think I heard of it on our table, is the value is not just on the person standing up the front of the room having conversation. It's also the conversations that happen with other leaders in this room. It's a bit more about Martine. So Martine's one of our longest serving team members. She trained under our founding partners back in 2008. She's the chair of Leading Teams Board. So what that means is she has worked with hundreds of teams, maybe thousands of people, and her ability to pattern match, I promise you, when she comes and works with your business, she would have seen it before somewhere, right? So what that means is her ability to maybe cut through and match the patterns is outstanding. We're the best we've got in our firm. I'm a bit different. I've only been here about 4 years. I spent 25 years in professional and financial services. And many of them in leadership roles. So I understand the pressures around trying to build a team, get a team up and going, while having to deliver those business metrics. So I've got that. I was always, the reason I ended up here, I'm really interested about why people behave the way they do, how people make decisions the way they do. And a lot of that is around culture and leadership. So that's what led me to here. What today's about, it's about talent. And we hear often when talent comes up in a conversation, leaders go straight to recruitment. It's about attracting talent. It's about finding talent. How do we find them? Where do we get them? How do we get them in? And that's fair enough. I'm told that Martine and I were joking about this on Monday. We have a conversation. Apparently, finding talent is hard. In fact, I've heard about a war on talent. Anyone heard that? There's the war for talent. We're saying, yeah, recruitment's hard. Finding talent is hard. It's not like when it used to be easy. Remember when it was really easy to find people? Yeah, thank you. All right, I miss that as well. So I kind of think we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about it's hard. We're just going to talk about what we can do. And as Doug said, finding talent, growing talent, attracting talent, cultivating talent, whatever it is, it's not a HR issue. It's a CEO issue, right? It starts at leadership level. So that's where we're angling. What the role that we as leaders play in attracting, finding, growing, cultivating talent. A bit about leading teams. Anyone heard of leading teams before? Probably the number 25 springs to my head. There's about 25 of Martine and I running around the country. That's Martine up the front. And we've been around 25 years. I guess we came to prominence in sport, especially around AFL. So that's when I first came to leading teams. I spent a couple of years in Melbourne and I heard about these mystery men in footy, because it was mostly men except for Martine. These mystery men of footy who helped these footy teams win premierships. So we were at Geelong when they won 3 and Hawthorn when they won 3. We were at the Sydney Swans, that sort of thing. We're also with a footy team up here called the Brisbane Lions. So when Chris Fagan got appointed in 2016, he got us in. So we've been there the whole journey. So happy to have some conversations about that. But whilst elite sport is interesting, people tend to be more excited about the Brisbane Lions and sports stories rather than an accounting firm that's had a good year. Any accountants in the room? I'm not saying that. I love working with accountants. But it just doesn't make the back page of the Courier Mail, right? So, but the vast majority of what we do is in business and in education and in government. That's where the vast amount of work that we do is. I guess the common thread is that we work with teams that want to improve, that want to get better. It doesn't matter if you're a school that wants to deliver outstanding student outcomes, or you're a private wealth business that wants to deliver the best outcome for clients. The common thread, whether it be the Brisbane Lions or private wealth or education, is a desire to improve the way they do things. So I'm going to get you back talking to yourself. The risk here is I notice there's people like having a conversation. So the risk here is it's going to be hard to wrangle you back. But I do want you to take 5 minutes to talk about this question. So we want to talk about talent. I guess we want to hear what talent actually is for you. So think about the best person you've ever had in your team. All right, and I want you to think about what really set them apart. So Charlie Fraser and I have known each other for a long time. Might have been talking about someone who's really, really good at writing business, finding clients, that sort of thing. But are they a really, really good teammate? Are the one, if you had to leave and start again, would they come with you? There wasn't anyone specific, just talking about. That makes sense. So I really want you to think about what really, really sets those best people apart. 5 minutes stuff now. Okay, finish up, please. Yeah, so what stood out for you guys? It was some of the effort, behavioural things. Is it less about competence, skills, that sort of thing? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
That consistent? Yep, thank you. Front table?
So about your organisation.
Sure.
Global advantages.
Energy?
Yep. National, said that we were the people who provide that.
Yep.
Put their qualifications to like. Correlation.
Yep.
Focused, commitment to team-based solutions. Confidence in decision making. You've got to demonstrate that.
Yep.
And also to highly focused and they understand what's possible.
Thank you. Back 2 tables. Anything fundamentally different? Anything you want to throw in?
I don't think fundamentally different, but we end up with curiosity and self-awareness.
Awesome. Yep. Table 5.
I think the main few points were honesty, I think, and also drive.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Let me just play it back. So, and if you're something you feel really strongly about, that's kind of not on this list, sing out. But what I heard was work ethic, drive, commitment, the level of investment, EQ, their connection with people, their willingness to accept feedback. They've got energy, they've got focus, they're committed. Team, there is a team element. They're confident in decision making. They can think about what's possible. They've got passion, they've got curiosity, self-awareness, they're honest, and they, what was the last thing you said? I can't read my own writing. Honesty and what? Drive.
Loyalty.
And loyalty.
Yeah.
There you go. Honesty and loyalty. So is there anything that you kind of jumped out for you that you're passionate about, not on this list?
So just accountability was
yes.
to sell us, but accountable, holding you accountable. So
Okay.
that double E.
Okay, gotcha. So accountability, that they would do what they said they would do, but they also wouldn't let the leader off the hook. Awesome. What's kind of not on that list? Education. Yep. What else? Degrees. Title. What else? Experience. Yeah. That's great, because at leading teams, we have a model. Like I'm fond of saying all models are wrong, some are helpful. This is a really helpful way. If you consider what you see someone is talented, right? I'm glad you answered the way you did, because it's going to line up with what we talk to teams about how they become high performing. So what this might do, there's a new colleague who's joined us, and she said she feels like she's been building Lego without ever seeing the front of the box. Then she turned the box over and said, that's what it looks like. In my experience, when I first saw this, that's what this is like. It's kind of the stuff as a lead that was floating around for me. It's kind of the first time I saw it all assembled. So I'm not going to go through this like I normally do, but I am going to sort of grab everything we've just got hold of and show you where it fits on there. And Martine, please sing out. So to have a high-performing team, it's got to start with leaders, right? Leaders should model the behaviour they expect of people. You need to have a clear common purpose about why we're here, why we exist, right? In my experience, talented people are clear about what we're actually trying to do here. What are we really trying to do? And they understand that, and they talk about that.
And why, why, the meaning behind it.
Yeah, so what are we doing, and why are we here? We work with the Brisbane Lions women's team. So a footy team, what do you reckon the purpose of the footy team is? Win premierships. The Brisbane Lion women's team, to inspire the next generation of female athletes. Do you reckon winning premierships inspire more people? Of course they do, right? So they're clear on that. And any team, and this is the bit that really jumps out at me, that you got to do 2 things well. You got to do the mechanics. Mechanics are the doing of the job. It's KPI, strategic plan, technical skills, operating process. We work with schools, mechanics of being a teacher, marking assignments, doing playground duty. If you want to win premierships, do you reckon you need to play football well? If you want to be a good private wealth business, do you reckon you need to give good private wealth advice? Of course you do. It's critically important. Did anyone say that and what talent looks like to them? No. No, we didn't hear it. What we did hear was dynamics. And dynamics is our language around culture and behaviour. I'm going to talk a bit about that in a minute. So what we heard from you was what we really see are talented people are people who are good at the dynamics versus the mechanics, right? Are mechanics important? Because they are. If you don't do the mechanics, you tend to run out of money, right? So you've got to be able to do them, but it's not the only thing. It's also dynamics. How we build dynamics, 3 parts to it. You've got to have an agreed set of standards. The key word there is an agreed behavioural framework. So a set of behaviours that we have all agreed to, or we've got the opportunity to buy into, and they are just a set of clear expectations. This is the way we do things around here. If you want to join First Focus, what do I got to do to fit in? That's what you got to do to fit in. Next thing you need is strong professional relationships. Key word there being professional. It's not about creating mates. It's about environment and trust and respect. So one of the things we're fond of saying, you've got trust when you can say the wrong thing, but it gets taken the right way. Right? So you can have 2 directors having a ding-dong argument about a thing, but they can say, right, all good, let's go have coffee. Right? It's not about creating mates, trust and respect. So if you have a set of clear expectations and environment, trust and respect, you can have what we call genuine conversations. So that's where feedback sits. So it's the ability just to talk about stuff. We don't talk about positive feedback or negative feedback. So I say to Charlie, I've got some negative feedback for you. What word do you reckon Charlie hears? Negative. Or Terry, some constructive criticism. What do you hear? Criticism. If we've invested in a relationship, we trust and respect each other, and we're clear on how we do things around here, and we talk about that, it's a genuine conversation. It's not positive or negative, it's just feedback. And if you do all that, so if everyone in your team's having conversations like that around performance, around standards, around the way we do things here, what do you reckon the impact on your mechanics are? Do you reckon they're going to go up or go down? From our experience, they improve. Because we can talk about not only what we do, but we can actually talk about how we are going about this thing called work. So if you think about what we heard, I would say the vast majority of it sits around purpose and around dynamics somewhere. How do you get buy-in? Well, you've got to be clear on why we're here. We talk about commitment and drive. We talk, honesty, loyalty, curiosity. They are not mechanics. They are dynamics about behaviours. What we help teams do when we work with them over the journey is you can codify what is the way we do things around here. So what Martin and I are talking about is investing in your dynamics before you need them, right? Build the culture so when the pressure's on, you've got something to lean on there. We'll often ask, what's the percentage? Think about your last team meeting. How much was it on mechanics or dynamics?
What's the fact?
Please.
So when the dynamics are broken,
Yep.
spend a lot of time putting on the dynamics.
Yes.
Team board.
Yeah, good. Yeah. So it's a great call. So there's no definitive it should be 50-50. What it is being able to say, what is impacting the performance of our team right now? And you might say, and so what we're hearing is everything you told us about talent was around dynamics, but what maybe Martin's point around doesn't gel. If you say dynamics for us are really important about talent, but every time I talk to my people, I'm talking about WIP, I'm talking about what's in their pipeline, I'm talking about KPIs, I'm talking about that. Right? So that's probably the challenge. But absolutely, if you've got the dynamics aren't working, it's probably going to get in the way of mechanics as well. Absolutely. Think in pure footy terms. If I don't trust, I'm a Brisbane boy, but I know AFL, but whatever. If I don't trust using a rugby league, if I don't trust Martine, am I going to refer her a client? Or I'm sick and if I don't trust Martine, am I going to let her go into a client? Right? So there's dynamics that will impact the ability to deliver our mechanics. I do trust you, Martine. Okay, so this is the team thing. I want to show you another model. We reckon it talked about the invite about the CEO playbook. I reckon this is the CEO playbook when it comes to mapping talent or anyone's journey through your business. All right, so this is going to be where we're going to spend a bit of time just understanding what that journey is when someone comes into your business and when they get out the other end. So it's called the cylinder model. We've talked about the Brisbane Lions. All right, culture. I've noticed when I come into especially corporate teams and I say the word culture, I get a bit of an eye roll. Culture's become a bit of a corporate buzzword, right? It's like it gets blamed for stuff. Like when the Brisbane Lions win premierships and Harris Andrews comes off the field and they put a microphone in his face and they say, what do you guys do different up there in Brisbane? What's going on? He said, oh, it's our culture. All right? Or back in financial services, there was a Royal Commission at one stage in financial services, right? And the commissioner said he blamed the culture of the banks or the lack of surveillance culture at ASIC, right? So it's kind of like it's culture's fault. You had to define culture. What is it? The way we do things here? Great. Any other advantages on that? Values? Good. How you live the values?
The behaviours.
The behaviours? Yeah, awesome. My favourite definition is the attitudes and behaviours that people unconsciously adopt to fit in with the expectations of people around them. I'll say that again. The attitudes and behaviours that people unconsciously adopt to fit in with the expectations of people around them. So what it's not, ping pong table, bring your dog to work, flexible work arrangements, do you have an on-site barista? It's not that. It's the stuff that happens in your team, right? What happens in your team meetings? I worked with a technology business down the valley. I got there about 2 o'clock. I'm setting up about 1:30. Every single person in that team brings their laptop and they're just tapping away, sending emails, whatever. And I get started and they close their laptop. But if you're a new person, you join that team, you come to your first team meeting, what do? Go get my laptop. Does that make sense? So you can't be cultureless, you've got one. We work with teams to help codify and just, be really deliberate and intentional about their culture. So when you got to the Brisbane Lions for 2016, part of what we do is we audit your culture so we know where you are right now. And there's plenty of things we do. But one of the questions we ask is, what are the counterproductive behaviours that we accept or tolerate that's holding us back from being high performing? Right, so it's getting you, think about your exec team, your board, saying, what is the stuff that we just do that's getting in the way? So we asked that question of the Lions. They said, so this is 2016, this is a professional football team want to win a premiership. They said, when players do extra, we criticise them. So this is a professional football team trying to win a flag. Do you want to do more work in the gym, extra work in the gym, ask more questions about game plan? You know what your teammates did? Like, paid out on you, hung jokes on you, criticised you, penalised you. So this is a team presumably trying to get high standards. Do you reckon that behaviour was helping them get there? Do you reckon they needed us to tell them that? And how quickly do you reckon it stopped? From there and then. So I want you to think about that. So another table talk, I want you to think about in your business right now, if you had the magic wand and you could change one thing about your culture, understanding that culture is the minimum thing you can get away with, the way we do things around here, attitudes and behaviours. What's the one magic wand thing that you could do to change it? And if that thing's getting in the way or not helping, I'd love you to sort of consider what might the impact be on your talent. Another 5 minutes, please. Okay. So that's culture. We're moving to leaders. There's one thing you need to be a leader by definition. If you got this thing, you are a leader. What is it? People, Charlie, you know. Followers. Thank you. Followers. If people follow you, you are a leader. Leaders should do lots of things, but leadership is around how you influence. So the way you dress, the way you come in the morning, the way you say good morning or night, if you just disappear out the back door at 3 o'clock, whatever. The way you go about you doing you, if that influences people and they choose to follow you, you are a leader. Therefore, who could be a leader? Anyone. It's not necessarily the head coach, the principal, the CEO. Anyone could be a leader because leadership is about influence and how you influence others. What's the main way you can influence others? What's the main role of a leader when it comes to the culture of an organisation? Attitude. But bingo, your own behaviour. Modelling the behaviour you expect. All right, so leadership is about modelling. 2 other words I'll throw in, and I reckon this sums up culture. 3 words: model, reward, challenge. The behaviour that gets modelled, as we said, what really gets rewarded around here, and what does or doesn't get challenged. If you think about those 3 things, you've got a pretty sharp view of your culture, and that's the role that leaders should play. The next part is you move up. So you've got culture underpinning everything. Culture impacts leadership. Culture also impacts recruitment. So in recruitment, you might put retention here as well, as it said. Who are you choosing to retain, or who are you recruiting? And on what basis are you recruiting them? Are you recruiting for mechanics or dynamics? Or is it a bit of both? And what might some of the impacts be? I've heard plenty of times, but Matt, I just needed someone. I couldn't wait any longer. You feel like that? Of course. So you take some risks maybe around their fit. Well, this is one that I've seen a little bit. You spend 6 months, there's a war on talent, right? You spend 6 months finding the right person. You do all these interviews. Eventually you find someone you think they're going to work out all right. They come in 2 weeks later. So you've sunk all that cost. 2 weeks later, turns out they don't fit, right? You burn all that time. What's the best thing that can happen? They leave. What's the worst thing that happen? They stay and everyone else leaves, right? So you just got to be really, really clear about what you're recruiting for, what you're recruiting them into. And you should make sure your recruiting process lines up with the way you do things as well, which we can talk about leading teams a bit about that. So once they're in the door, you have to induct them, right? And there's 2 parts to an induction. There's a formal induction and an informal induction. What do you reckon the formal induction is? Technical, mechanics. Yep, mechanics. Here's how you set up your email and here's where to assemble. Like I worked over at the NAB for a long time, and when people join the NAB, we had to get told when the fire alarm goes off, where do you assemble? We had to assemble just down in Post Office Square, right? So you get told that when you join in. Anything else you reckon might make it in the formal induction? Corporate framework. Yeah, how things work. What's expected of you? Yeah, you could get told your values. You could say, this is what you've got to do to fit in around here, right? That's part of the formal induction. You get told, this is what we expect of you. These are our values. Formal induction, right? The next part is the informal induction. What do you reckon that is? The dynamics? Yeah, tell me a bit more. The lunchroom? Yeah, expand on that. Relationships? What really goes on? So you're in an interview and you get told, or you're telling someone, here we are open and honest. We just tell it like it is. Nothing's off the table. You can just say what's on your mind. It's open and honest. And we don't talk about people either. We just go straight to the source. So welcome aboard. Come to a team meeting or your board meeting maybe. You go to your first team meeting, all goes nicely. You're in the lunchroom making a tea or coffee afterwards, and you hear 2 people not being open and honest or complaining, whinging about someone else. All right, what do you reckon makes a bigger impact? What you get told in your interview or what you see in the lunchroom after your first team meeting? Lunchroom, right? So the opportunity there is for you to make sure you're doing what it says on the tin. If in this team we take responsibility, you better see it. And if this team, we're really open for feedback, you better make sure that it gets shown in the early stages. This, we're going to keep moving, but there's a little quick question I want you to ask yourself. What do people really learn in their first 30 days of working in your joint that's not in the induction pack? All right, what do they really learn? That might be a way of thinking about, are we doing what it says on the tin? So once they're in, it's about performance. And Martine, after I'm kind of leading this, Martine's going to do a lot more of a practical exercise. So Martine's going to help unpick what performance looks like, who's performing or why they're performing. But performing is you're doing either your job. It's about what really gets rewarded. It's about the conversations that are had. I reckon also links, we talked about retain. What basis are you recruiting someone, mechanics or dynamics? Why are we retaining someone? If they're performing, how are they performing? Are they just putting the mechanics in, but they're a terrible person to work with? Or they're a really great person, they're invested, they try really hard, but they're just not competent enough. So all that kind of falls into that performance bucket about how we manage performance around here. It's the reward and the challenge. Do your job, and then, like it or not, everyone's going to leave at some stage. Your culture should also inform exit. So your culture should inform how you exit someone, on what basis they are being exited. Are you leaving them, and is someone in better shape after having been through your business and coming out the other end, or not? Are we in better shape because someone's worked with us along the journey? So a lot of the exit is around legacy. And I've seen it so many times. People can have a really good culture, but when someone says, I'm leaving, oh, you're dead to me. All right. I just think you've invested all that time doing all that great stuff. One extra step of just exiting someone really well, because that sends a message to clients, suppliers, and staff about what's really important. But it is about legacy. And by the way, legacy doesn't start 2 weeks before you're handing your notice. Legacy probably starts in the way you behave the moment you step in the door. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, working with some teams, think about when someone's on their first day, what do you want them to feel? Like, I can remember, do you want them to come to their desk and their laptop hasn't been ordered, they've got no phone, they're kind of sitting around? Like, how do you really feel when that happens? Versus you come in, everyone's there. Here's your laptop, here's your phone. Like, it's just really little simple things that if you take the time to review what you do and you think about how you want people to feel, you'll find the time to do stuff like that.
It's so interesting because 8 years ago, made a decision that I throw a party every time somebody starts, not when they leave. Yeah. And it's just been our culture. I exit people well.
Yep.
And I'm not friends, but I make sure people well, things like that. But I get so frustrated when people go, oh, Tony's leaving, let's spend a lot of money on them having sex. Like, no, Tony's starting, let's spend a lot of money on them, getting them involved in the business.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting because I still have people go and say, oh, they've been here 6 years, we were so party.
So, no, there's no right or wrong. It's no right or wrong. It's just more making sure the way you exit people aligns with your culture, whatever that is. So this is kind of the system, right? This is the system that talent goes through. Martine's going to sharpen us up on the people. So you're going to have a conversation about the people you've actually got. We talked about talent. Martine's going to help you work out where people are. Are they willing? Are they able? And that should see us through to the rest of today.
The way that we work is the questions that we ask provide you with tools, and it's great to see people writing notes or taking photos, and that's totally fine. But this will give you a little bit more of a chance to sink your teeth into and actually have a good think about and a chat about on your tables about your current group of people and link it to talent, but kind of bring everything that we've been talking about together. So we'd like you to think about, we've got a few activities like this. We talked at the start of the day in our model around how important mechanics are. So of course it is important, and particularly if we're looking at talent, it is important as to the ability of someone to be able to do the job that we pay them to do. So we'd like you to think about that. You might look at these two axes as a 0 to 10. So you can actually do this exercise as a mapping exercise. We've talked a lot about, even right at the start of today, about why people are your best people, and that they all fit into that dynamics bucket. And we link that to that, there's a choice around this. It's an attitude, it's an energy, and it's an effort piece. So we use the term willing to describe all of those things. So what we'd like you to do is to have a think about your executive team, your leadership team, but a team that you're a part of, that you lead. Don't think about too many people. We don't have time for that, but you can make a start here. And we'd like you to map each person based on their willingness and ability. And then we've got some questions for you after it. Does it make sense what I'm asking you to do here? 0 to 10, 0 to 10. Have a think about individuals based on those two characteristics. of performance. And we find when we do these mapping exercise that the harder you can mark your people, the better off you'll be. So be critical here. A nice buzz in the room. Thanks for having the conversation with each other. We know that this can be challenging, particularly when you've got a new bloke to your team and he's been around for 6 weeks. So, geez, it's a bit unfair if I call him unable, isn't it? Well, and he's really willing. Well, no, it's not, but it makes sense that this kid doesn't know what he's doing yet. So it makes sense. So there's a bit about that. There's also some questions to ask yourself. And large, like a question around that cover all 4 of the quadrants is, what's the risk? What's the risk with our people that are willing and able if we do nothing? They leave. They might be your talent. That might be where your talent sits. Maybe they might. Yep. What sometimes with our people that are willing and able, what do we tend to do with them? Promote them, load them up with work, don't we? Because they're willing and able. So we load them up with work. So what's the risk of that? Absolutely. So just keep it like that. What's the risk question is a good one. The willing and unable. So is there a training program? Are they learning from someone? Doesn't have to be you. It might actually be one of your willing and able people that can be involved in some training and upskilling. What's the risk, though, if we do nothing there? The willingness might drop off a bit, potentially. We've already covered the unwilling and unable crew. How the fuck did they get in? So that there's a question. What's the risk if they stay? You know, those types of things that we talked about. I've done a bit of work along the journey of with some unwilling and very able salespeople. The one that comes to my mind is a real estate agent that I worked with, and they decided to isolate this very high-performing. She was involved in major property development, so good for the business, and she was doing so much damage in terms of the attitude and the how she worked with people. They decided to isolate her in her own office in that corner of the room, but of course, she still managed to do the damage as she was walking from the front door to her office in that corner of the room. So again, there's the question there is what's the risk? Because they're good for the bottom line. They bring us in the big projects, but they're doing a fair bit of damage in terms of attitude and willingness of other people. We talked a bit about influence before. So have a look at where the people are on your quadrant as you map them. Which of those people has influence? And what's the risk, again, if we do nothing with that person who has influence, who might be in a quadrant that we don't want them in? What's the risk if we don't do anything about them? Yeah, and if you're terrific, and it's a reason why purpose sits at the top of our model, because it's the first thing we're going to talk about. It's also where we can spend a lot of time with teams because the first answer to the question is we exist to make money, and it's actually got to be more than that. We've got to make money, we've got to survive, we've got to keep the doors open, we've got to pay people. And what else is it? Because that's the thing that people will be attached to. We'll hang around, and there are 3 of us. So if you have other questions that you want to come chat to us, we're here. We've got books. Please feel free to take a couple of books. Ray McLean is our founder. He wrote a couple of books. So please feel free to take a copy. They're there on the table as you leave. We are more than happy to hang around. If you've got questions to ask now, please do so. Otherwise, we're happy to chat to people offline.
The rest of this hearing, ask them if there's specific questions. Hang out. If you want to talk to each other on the table, it's like a room in your hands for the next however long. We do leave you with a question though, and it isn't. Well, we said it's over to you in terms of right now and the questions that we're willing to answer. But there's an invitation that, well, again, there's a risk that you walk out of here in 5 minutes' time and have had an enjoyable breakfast, met some nice people, heard some really engaging speakers, and you go about your day and nothing changes. So that's not how leading teams works. So over to you means what's one thing that you are going to do differently? Because you got something out of this morning. We saw it, we saw the notes, we heard the engagement, and our stuff is so simple, it's not wrapped up in theory, that you can't not get something out of it if you choose. It's just a choice that you get to make. So it really is over to you in terms of what you might do differently. We're happy to help you to answer that question if you would like.
thank you for your attention. Thanks for coming. Very appreciate it.